I try to make work that speaks a common language, that has a kind of popular language that people understand, a visual language that doesn't intimidate them. Humor is a good way to get people in, draw them into the work and have them think about it.
18 Yonge was actually our very first public art program for the Lanterra Development. The building happens to be at the very foot of Yonge Street, where Yonge meets Lakeshore. Tom is quite famous for his whimsical, almost cartoon figures, larger than life, sculpted out of bronze. His initial proposal to us was actually for these figures to be tourists in Toronto. And although we liked the idea, we saw a potential to make it a much more important concept.
The Immigrant Family is such a classic story about coming into the new world, sort of looking up with all your bags, and both this looking outward and looking inward, looking toward the baby, the future, and being in this new country and looking out. I like this idea that Toronto was really a center for immigration into Canada. And I was touched that Mark Mandelbaum had this family history.
My in-laws, who arrived in the shores of Canada after the Holocaust from Hungary, they and most of their friends and acquaintances who came after the war actually landed in Halifax by boat and took a train across Canada. Their first look at Toronto was a train entering Toronto at that very spot. That image just struck a real chord with us. Toronto is ultimately a very multicultural city, and although many people today come by car or by plane or some other modes of transport, in the early days most people came by train, and their first view of Toronto was that very spot.
I'm happy with it. I think it's a good purpose of public art that it sort of honors being a newcomer in the country and acknowledges it as an important role to play in the society.